So I think I want to have a little fun with old boy that left that comment talking about the Phillies was supposed to take it all, where everything just went into a game 7. That's essentially what happened, and a lot of people they're not even interested in this topic, so this is not going to get a lot of hype. But I got to finish this out for myself. It's $11 million up on my end, which is pretty much that was on the Rangers' hand actually. So resources and everything has been spread out in this particular baseball game, and I'm using this as an example on how this currency and stuff like that, and this monetization that I talk about, how it's real. That was the only point I wanted to prove. I don't care if you call me names and call me out of my name and say I'm this and I'm a bum and I shouldn't be looking like that or whatever the case may be. But my point was just to prove that it's real money. It's being counted, it can be sourced and tracked, and it has to be accounted for. And now it's to a point where if you study this thing, because I'm just teaching this as it goes, as sport goes. I mean, if people watch it, you can root for who you want to root for. It's just fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not telling you what you have to do or anything. This is just my opinions and just a conversational episode, really. But because at this point, I mean, our financial situation is just so bad as far as like fiat notes. Nobody's helping out these days for whatever reasons. It doesn't really matter, you know, like as far as the people, what they do or what they don't do, what they will donate, what they won't donate. Because at this point, when you get to a game 7 in sports, this is something I want to teach people. When you talk about these championships, it's different. And the guy, I mean, you know, I understand you had a connection with Philly, but for whatever reason, maybe from there, that's good. You stuck with their team. However, in my scenario, we have to go through a scenario where we work with all the teams when this much money's on the table at different games and at different junctures. But when it comes down to a game 7, we weigh the analysis of what was donated, what we received as far as income, or I don't really want to call it income, but donations at this time, but it does convert into an income when we do our paperwork and stuff like that. And we weigh an analysis, and when you get into a game 7, there's really no payment to do or anything. There's really no obligation as far as through sports when you talk about that, and there possibly could not even be a profit until the very end when you start talking about game 7s, because game 7 is essentially dealing with a person that has this amount of resources, putting it up against another person that may have that amount of resources. So that's what, like, when you talk about game 7, it's not about, okay, you got to pay this much money to participate, and this team got to pay that much money. No, it's just they put up their resources, you put up your resources, and it turns into a balance. However, when they do that, there's a scale and certain points that they have to stay up under. So you start seeing points like last night when the Rangers played and won and took everything. They won by like 11 points. That's like, you know, like it's past the level of bankruptcy and the level of business on this level. When you start talking about 11 points, it's past the level of business on the ground. You know, going into the mom and pops and going online and buying something and getting points through scores that way. When you start seeing points like 11 on a high level like that, you're talking about national keys, dealing with satellites, and electricity lines and poles, interpoles and stuff like that that have fees and hidden fees and stuff like that that you have to access to view the internet. So I'm very intelligent when it comes to this stuff because I had to study it. You know what I'm saying? And you have fees and stuff like that that you have to pay for. That's the bottom line. And like the money that I monetized on, which we thought was lost, pretty much has become consolidated up under the state of Texas as far as money's concerned. My job is to follow the money. And what I'm doing as far as the monetization. In Texas, essentially, the Rangers took over the monetization and took in pretty much accepted for value almost every last dollar that I've monetized since I've started this program, which was about 4 years ago, well, about 3 years ago actually. Altogether, about 3 years ago, that's right. They took that and consolidated it all up under their team, so that's kind of like giving me a reason to really play. So what I want to break down is that you have people that tend to try to mock the points in sports. So like if a team wins a 3-5, You have people that try to verify, it's called a verification. They try to verify the unit that it was run up under. So like if they win by 5, they'll try to do something to mock or match that unit, hence to try to create a side bet in sports. Now this, when you get into the last end, you start talking about pennants and championships in sports, you have to remember all of that goes to the side bets and all of that. It's like you have to get to a point when you start talking about sports. This is for people that bet with their channel, that's like really into this and trying to do the stuff that I'm talking about too. You got to really know how much money you already have on hand. Like, what are you playing with? Like, how much did you monetize on totally before you can go into a situation? Because having a good day and saying I made $50,000 in a day, I hear these investors, then they go try to jump into sports. That's really not a lot of money in sports. We start talking about championships. They play for that type of stuff just in a night. Like $50,000, you got to think of a team. Like my situation was, I started this when it was in regular season and invested every day to build up to where I'm at now with some of these teams that are actually still in it. And that makes it different. So like we start talking about verification, once it gets to that level, you're not going to really be able to verify unless you have money. You can mock it. Like when I say verify, there are people that try to use sales, for instance. They'll say, well, I sold 3 cars today. I want to use that for 3 points in sports. That may be fine. You may have made $1,000 doing that during the regular season. You can get a lot of points doing that. That's my point. Some people may not understand this. Just keep trying to watch it, or if you don't, I understand, go to the next episode. But I'm going to finish it out for people that understand what I'm talking about. So you put up the 3 cars to verify a certain amount of points that a team may have won or lost by to get credit. This is why people do it. And the thing is that when you get to this level, it's the point structures are not what you think. 3 points, maybe $3 million, for instance. They start playing for ridiculous amounts depending on your investment level. So they have in sports what's called a gadget, essentially, that, or a supercomputer is what it is, that essentially regulates the units and all the sales and, you know, and people that are a part of these teams officially and have certified contracts with sports, and people that are doing side bets up under those people. You may not even know you're even in this, but sports has a supercomputer to track everyone. That's why I love it. It's very interesting. So everyone can be tracked or whatever, and what's happening is that this actual supercomputer that I'm speaking of to control units is actually what they're playing for. They're not going to tell you that. That's what it's going to be for. Even in the World Series, they're finishing out a part of it tonight with this Game 7 that they had with Arizona again in Philly. I started this episode laughing about the guy that was saying Philly, well, they made it to a Game 7, so now we can talk about, in my life, in my world, a scenario where it really doesn't matter who wins now. Yeah, it's getting to that point. It really doesn't matter who wins. It's all about what's going to happen with the money and the commodities and what's up on the table. See, people don't know what's up. I do. Like what's actually being played for on the world stage. This is what I'm speaking of. Not just your local community or, you know, you like this team and that team. You got to think, if they're willing to put millions into this every day, baseball is a very lucrative sport. Why? Just to have fun and make money? It's a good business? Nah, it's more to it than that. When you start talking about business and billions and getting into a business that's running and regulating and managing billions of dollars, you know it's more than just money. When they have baseball games and make $1 million in a day, you know it has to be more than just money to motivate you to want to keep making that type of money. It's not just because you're greedy at a certain point. You know it's a secret what you plan for, and I know the big secret. Of course, I'm not going to reveal it here, but what I do want to talk about is the keyboard is becoming very interesting now, because when people try to verify and mock things, they have this super keyboard to kind of like write you out. In the sports arena, so it's like you may come up and put up all this money and think you're doing something with all these units and put up about $1,000 or whatever the case may be, and side bets with your friends, and then you wonder why you lose and stuff and why you're not winning. I can almost predict who's going to win or lose based upon fractions of bets. So like last night, I could bet against the scenario. Like I bet it against a team that I had money in because of a fraction in the scenario, and was able to actually predict that I was going to lose, believe it or not. And that's what happened. And then that ended up turning around and making this channel more credit. So this is not here to brag about anything, but this is here to help you to understand the secret Illuminati and how they use units to control the world stage and scenarios, to control not only just the electrical grid over here, but to control the water, the flow of the water, the weather. All of this stuff is controlled by what's called units. It's controlled by a supercomputer, and it goes into sports, and this is why it's important to them. And it also goes into secret, what's going to be up for grabs in this World Series. And one of the biggest topics that I covered for you guys all year and been talking about is the Underworld Network. Because the Texas Rangers are very conscious, and they know about the Underground Network. And that's what's really going to be up for grabs in this World Series. It's going to be very important. Really, regardless to who wins between Philly and Arizona, it's just going to change the scenario. That's all it's going to do. So that's my recap on it. Serious stuff to me. Sounds like somebody just up here talking shit about sports and bragging and this. And people get emotional because they're into the game, and I get that. But this is the metaphysics. What is it about? What is this play about? To me, each game is about, it represents a certain scenario in metaphysics. So this is why I'm making this episode. What is it really about? What are they really talking about? What are they really playing over? So we'll be bouncing in and out with various different topics and coming back speaking on that type of stuff. But I had to kind of put that out there, like, don't put a lot of your energy into stuff. I tried to start this channel and the stuff that I talk about as a form of an investment group and a way to verify things for people that were highly into credit and things of that nature, and understood in their area how to try to get credit. They may not make as much money, for instance, to be able to participate in sports when it gets to a certain level. So this is why I started this channel, for people to be able to donate and trade, of course, to verify certain units of sports, because I do have to announce that I do have enough to verify $11 million, believe it or not. And that's the top score. That's something I have to always watch in sports. Who scored the most points in all the games, and I believe that was probably like the highest score. And I do have enough, so I'm still in it. And for people that want to donate, you know what I'm talking about, you can do that. You know what I'm saying? If you want to. If you don't want to do that, I understand it, because people are talking about trustworthiness. At this point, I'm not even really trying to get any new people, honestly. I'm just here to finish out the movie and the play and the stuff that I talked about, so that I can go ahead and see what happens next. Because to me, the stuff is that serious that if it's controlling the weather and the things of that nature, these units, and they're able to create scenarios, this is something that has to be followed, and it's very lucrative. And I will continue to, at times, speak on these things and discuss these things privately with members of my channel. So you guys stay vigilant. Anybody interested in donating and helping us out, we just use the donations to keep going. I do not have a job. I do this full time. The number 13, scienceplural@gmail.com, is our now kind of like a black card PayPal account, believe it or not, because of the winnings and stuff that we won. It used to be a straw man PayPal account. It's now like a credit card, black card PayPal account that, of course, when donated to, can automatically generate credit. If you know what you're doing, can automatically stimulate credit, from just putting money into that particular account. So, and also tax deductible as well. So I appreciate you guys for everything that you've done, just for even watching the videos. Continue to keep watching. I'll be coming up with various other topics. You guys stay vigilant.